Hello and welcome. Today, let's have a look at how my carrots are doing. I have had a sneaky peek under here yesterday, and I can reveal we do have quite a lot of germination here now. And I've been keeping the cardboard on, partly to protect them, and partly because sometimes they germinate better in the dark. However, they now need the light because some of them are getting a little bit elongated where they're looking for the sunshine. So I need to create a cover to go over here to stop my rabbits from getting in here, because I'm not convinced that the rabbits have gone. Even though we've got 7 rabbits so far, they've caught 7 rabbits in their trap. I'm still not convinced that bugs has gone. So I'm going to make a frame for this and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So I brought this wood down from the garden. It's all old bits of timber that we no longer need, but I'm hoping to find the right length that I can use for the battens. So I'm just measuring now to see what length I need, and I've decided to go for about 50 centimetres in height because I don't think carrots will grow any bigger than 50 centimetres, surely. I'm just cutting the timber to size now. So because I've got these joins in the corner and they're all made out of a different size timber and arranged differently, I'm going to have to come up with something a little bit different from what I originally meant to do. So I'm fixing the leg in place now. I'm just screwing into the side, and I'm going to put another screw the other side to make sure that it's in and it's anchored securely, because these are going to be up for a while. And I'm just adding the second and third legs in now. This third leg was a bit wonky there, wasn't it? But I straightened it up and it stood up straight then. And now I've added the fourth leg too. Now the uprights are in place, I can measure this length of timber and cut it to size to make sure it fits nicely between the 2 uprights. And it will form a kind of N shape if you think of the middle of the N being elongated. And then I can drape some netting over both bits of timber and then attach it to the frame at the bottom. And I'm just screwing this all together now. And here I am on the windiest day trying to put in this netting. This was an awful job. I have said it before and I'll say it again. I really, really hate netting. But I'm cutting it to size now, and then I'm going to use some stones and some whatever else I can find to hold it in place. So here it is, all tucked in for the time being. You can just about see the carrots through it, but I can water through this, so that's fine. I don't need to keep taking it up. And what I will do when I get a moment is go to Poundland, because Jim from Jim's Raised Bed Garden, I think that's what it is, wrote in one of my comments that you can get some clips that you can clip onto the bed, you know, to hold your mesh in place, and then that will make it a lot more tidier than it's looking at the moment. So I'm going to go to Poundland when I get a moment, but that won't be today. So I'm going to get on with the other side and I'll show you what it's looking like when I'm done. And here is the other side, all done. There is a fair few carrots in here. If I come back a bit, maybe you can see there's absolutely loads in that corner. I'll try and get those clips as soon as possible, just to make it look a bit tidier. This bed still seems to be being attacked by rabbits. They seem to like to dig in this bed. So I just can't see us getting any tulips back next year. But what I want to do now is I just want to top up this bed. And you can see here the grass is growing from underneath the bed. And as I did the other beds further along, I dug up that area along there, so there was no grass growing like either side. But because I did this one first, I didn't do that. So I shall show you my cunning plan to stop those from growing up this side. So I'm just going to pull as much of the grass out as I can. And now that I've got rid of all the grass, I'm just going to put down this cardboard. And now the cardboard's in place, I'm going to smother it in compost. And this bed needs a top up anyway of compost, because it's sunk since I put the original compost in. So I want a good thick layer up against the edge of the bed and hide in the cardboard. And hopefully that thick layer now on top of the cardboard will stop those weeds from coming back through. That's the plan. And let me show you what other progress I've made around the plot. I'm pretty sure I'd filled this bed the last time I was here, but I hadn't filled these two beds, and I hadn't dug out this area either for the flowers. So I've also brought my other cloche down, and I filled this bed and I filled that bed, and I've dug that bed dug that bed in. So I think I've got room for another 2 beds here. I'll have to see when I put this one in how much more room I've got here. I need to take up the astroturf, and I did notice my shed is well off its base. You can see that it's not sitting on the concrete or patio slabs that it should be. So when I've emptied the shed a little bit, I reckon I could probably budge that back into place. But that's a job for another day. The job I want to get on with now is to dig up this patch of nettles here, because I was going to dig the patch there and start filling this bed. But if I dig this patch, when my plot neighbour comes down to go to her patch, she's going to have to walk all the way through these nettles. So I think in the spirit of neighbourly, friendliness, I'll dig up those nettles now. And here it is. It's all gone. Hurrah! So that patch of nettles is now gone, thank goodness. I feel like I got all the roots out. I dug it down deep, well, not deep, but to where I felt like there were no big roots left. So hopefully they won't grow back now. And it only took me about 10 minutes, so I was pleased about that. And now I started another job, so let me show you that. So these cloches were made for the beds I had at home, which were just over half the length of those ones now. So what I was wanting to do with these, and I've just spent about 10 minutes just taking out the staples that were holding this enviromesh on. And then what I'm really hoping will happen is I'll take a screw out from there, and I think it's held in a screw there and also like an L-shape bracket, and it's the same the other side. There's a screw coming that way and then the L-shaped bracket. So hopefully if I undo the screws there and the screw there and this top screw here and the same the other side, this side will all come away. I'm too close and my camera's going bonkers. So this side here then will come out as like an upside down T shape, and I can use that at the end, if you know what I mean, and just put extensions on here and this end and that end. So let's see if they come out as easily as I'm hoping they will. Probably not. I knew this wouldn't be easy. The screws are not coming out. They're coming out, but only so far, and then they get like, they lose their grip, so they won't come out any further. But I have got that one out, so that's good. Oh no, I don't need to do that one, do I? Don't need to do that one. And that one came out. That's loose. So will this top one come out? The answer is yes. Oh no, it had the L-shaped thing bracket. So this was the piece I was saying will hopefully come off in one. And then I can just extend it along to the length that we need. So the length of this is 140. And the bed is 240. So we need a metre. Right, let's get some timber. So annoyingly, this length of timber that I've got, and I've got a few of them, is 2 meters 40, which is what I would need. But I thought it was probably easier to just like add the extensions on than take all the enviromesh off, take it apart just to replace them with the full length. I don't know. What do you think? Which do you think would have been easier? Right. One meter. Two meters. Right. I need one more for the top. Since I was here, I might as well cut the timber for the second cloche. Hopefully some point soon we'll get some things in the ground. Right, so I've cut my timber to length, 1 metre. The spare ones I can use as the attaching pieces of wood, and hopefully this won't turn into a nightmare. Right, I've just detached that, so that's good. And annoyingly, I only have 50mm screws or 30mm screws, and this needs 40mm screws. So I'm going to have to either, hopefully I'll have some at home, if not I'll have to go to B&Q and get some. So I can't complete this job tonight, but I have got one more job that I can get on with. So my intention for these beds are to be mostly flower beds, but I probably will plant some squashes to climb up in like an arch somewhere around the place. But what I want to do with this spare wood that I brought down is to make a surround. So I just need to cut that piece and that piece to size, and then just pop a screw in there and dig them in a bit, and then they'll provide a surround. Now the reason I'm doing this, I don't want the surround to be there permanently, but eventually when I've got all the infrastructure done and the nettles dug out, I'm then going to turn my attention to digging up the paths so I can level the whole allotment out, because at the moment it's really up and down and it's quite dangerous to walk on. I am a bit accident prone, so I am likely to go over on my ankle if I leave the ground as bumpy as it is. So I want these to be in place for when I do that. But I mean, we're talking a long way off in the future, I reckon. But since I've got the wood here and the time, might as well try and do as many as I can. I wouldn't usually recommend cutting like that. It's not the safest of things to do. This wood is very rotten. So I've ended up with this. Look, I found my little lavender plant that got dug up by the rabbits, or buried, whichever way you look at it. Well, I'm back down here and I think I've got everything I need today. Wah, wah, wah. You may want to rethink that, Bethan. Right, these are the M40s, I think. These screws I'm using now, I not stole them, but I had them off my husband, and they're the ones that have got like a star in them instead of like the crosses. So they're a different kind, but he said they were better to use than the ones I was using. He said they gripped better and lasted longer. I don't know if that's true, but I just thought I'd mention that in case any of you were buying some screws. Just joining up those two end pieces now. Right, that's back up and running. So I've just put a screw in here and the same the other side, and one screw in the top. And now I'm just going to put these L shapes back in place just to give it a bit of extra support. I need to change the head on my bit because it takes a smaller bit for that one. It says on the packet here, whatever size you're using, you need to change the heads around. So I'll be back in a minute. So all of this kind of tells you, this side tells you the size of the screw head, as it were, and then this one tells you the length of the screw. So when you're doing the smaller ones, you need the 3.5 size, and then I was using the T20 one, and the drill bits are in here like this. So I just need to look on here and go, oh, I'm using a 3.5. I need a T15, so I can swap out the T15 for the T20, or whichever way round I'm doing it, if you understand. So this is really helpful. I just thought I'd explain that in case people didn't know. Okay, I should now have the right attachment. So I've made this wooden batten with a hole drilled out to hold the hoops in place. So I'm just going to screw this one on the other side and get this hoop in place here. So I've just put this hoop in here, and I've realised that I've forgotten another hoop to go here. So I've got them at home, so I'll have to bring them down next time, and I'll have to complete this job next time because I need to be at home for a delivery, and I better get home now. But let's go and see what I've got to do at home, because there's always something to do at home. I'm at home now in the greenhouse, and I've got lots of plants that I need to sort out. So let me show you what I've got and what I'm going to do with them. The first plants I need to sort out are these shop-bought tomato plants, because they are ready to go now into their final positions. I water them daily, and I can tell that there's hardly any water left in these, which tells me that I either need to pot it on into a bigger pot, but I reckon this is ready to go into its final position. And I've got 4 of them. So I've got out my autopot system, and I've just started to connect it up. So what happens is the pot sits in the reservoir, and then this valve lets in the water, and it'll register when it needs more water and let in more water, and it'll register when there's enough water and it'll stop letting in the water. So I've joined these 3 together, and I've just left this last one because I'm going to show you that. And then it connects to here, and this was the length connection I had last year, but it didn't fit because this is in a different position to last year. So I just need to cut this pipe in to size so it can connect to here, and that one goes in there, and then that will connect to here, and then this is just a reservoir, and in this other side that's sort of like a filter that stops any nastiness getting into the pipe and clogging it up. Okay, so this goes through there. And then pull it through as much as you can. And then you take that off and pop that on there. The number of times I've forgotten to do that, I can tell you. And then I've had to take it all back off and put it back on. And then you just connect the valve to the pipe. And it's quite a warm day today. It's quite warm in this greenhouse. So the pipe is quite pliable. Sometimes it's quite hard. And then screw that on. And then there's a little T here, so the valve will sit on the T. I'll just pull this all the way back. Like so. And then that valve, you will hear and feel it sort of pop onto the T. That's that ready now. And then I just need a length. Oh look, must have been one already cut. So I'm just going to join it there. And here. Just like that. And then they do have these lids that sit over here to stop anything getting into them, but we'll put them on after we've set the system up and can see that everything is working. So now we can get on to planting the tomatoes. I'm just going to add a lot of compost into this bucket. I'm going to put in some perlite, and some fish blood and bone, but not much, because I have got some liquid fertiliser that you put in the reservoir tank, and they send it to you with the kit, I think, anyway. Because I had this last year, so I can't remember, but I think they send it with the kit, or you can buy it separately, and it's not too expensive. But you can put it in the water, so every time the plants get water, they get fertilised at the same time, so you don't need to worry too much, you know, about fertilising it. Right, let's get this tomato plant in. This one is Big Boy. Oh look, really ready to go in. I think I want a bit more compost in here. Oh no, I've got loads in my perlite. Never mind. Okay, just pop our label in there, pop it onto our autopot system, and I'll get on and do the other three, and I'll show you what I got when I finished. So here they are now, all planted up. I put some marigolds in 2 of the pots because I had some marigolds ready that needed to go out really. They were too small in the pots they were, and I didn't really want to pot them on. So they've gone in here, and I'll put some basil in the other plant pots when the basil is ready. But it's always amazing how much bigger the plant looks when you pot it on. It seems to like grow into its space straight away, doesn't it? It's really bizarre. Anyway, I forgot to say what I needed to do is to top water them for the first sort of 5 to 7 days. So I water them from above, which I have done, and that way the water gets all the way through. You make sure it runs out to the bottom, but it means that the water can get all the way through the pot, and then when you put it into the reservoirs over there, it will soak up the water straight away, rather than if you left the reservoirs to do all the watering. It would take a long time for that amount of water to filter up in that pot, and at that point you're endangering your plants. So they recommend that you water from the top for the first week or so and then put it into the reservoir. So I'm going to leave these here for now. I'm going to fill up the reservoir with water and put some feed in it so it's ready to go. But I'll turn the system off so it doesn't feed into the reservoirs at the moment. I'll wait until these are ready to go in there before I do that. So I filled that tank up and added the nutrient to it. And in the interest of transparency, you can see that I hadn't in fact turned the lock off. I thought it was off, but it wasn't, because it started to filter through straight away. You can see that it this one is quite full, and then that one, and then that one, and then I turned it off before it got to the end here. So it is working, which is great. A lot of these plants now are ready to go out. When I plant out these antirrhinum, I'll separate the plants and plant them out singly, but for growing on purposes I grew them on like 3 per pot, and that's worked out well. My cabbages, now these ironically could go into the ground, but sadly the one bed that isn't ready is the cabbage bed, so I really need to pot these on, because I'm going to stunt them if I don't put them into a bigger pot soon. This coriander can go outside now. It's going to go where my carrots were last year, as well as this parsley. And this dill I was going to put outside as well, but it's actually bolted. And the garlics can go outside as well. And these lettuces, these can go out into my pots where the mustard is. Because this dill has bolted, it's not going to give out many more leaves. So I'm going to take the leaves that are on, snip them off. What I'll do is I'll give them a quick wash in the under the tap, and then I'll put them in freezer bags and I'll just dry them like that. And then when I want a bit of dill to go in some potato salad or something, I just take out a couple of fronds, chop them up frozen, leave them then to defrost and pop them in the salad just before you're about to eat it. So that's a really good way to use the dill, I have found in the past, and a bag full lasts a long time. I may plant some more, but dill doesn't do very well in the summer. It's more like an autumn and spring herb. It seems to bolt quite easy in the heat. So I don't know whether I'll plant some more, but I do love dill. Dill is one of my favourites. Before I sort out the other lettuce, I'm going to harvest this lettuce here. That's been ready to harvest for about a week, so I thought I'd grab these two before they bolt. There we go. 2 lovely lettuce there. So you can see this mustard has put up a flower stalk now. So I'm going to harvest all the leaves off it and then cut it off at the base and pop the other lettuce in. Slight change of plan with these pots. When I was taking out the mustard, I noticed that underneath the core of these pots are dry, which is probably why the mustard bolted. I thought it was just because the weather was hot, but I think it's because they were, parched. So before I plant the new lettuce in here, I'm going to soak this compost overnight, and hopefully then the new lettuces that go in here will thrive if, you know, I keep on top of watering them. It's a bit hard this time of year to keep on top of everything, isn't it? Especially, you know, with doing the allotment, and the allotment is kind of my, you know, my main focus at the moment. So sadly I have to take my eye off the ball with other things. But anyway, I'll get on and keep watering this compost now, and I'll come back in about 10 minutes and water it again until I feel like, you know, it's ready to have the new lettuces. Here's my harvest of dill. That will keep us going for a while. I've got rid of the roots now, and I will pot some of this parsley into those 2 pots there. So a good harvest of dill, a good harvest of lettuce and mustard. Let's go and give some of this mustard to the chickens. There you are, chickies. They quite like mustard. So I give them some of our mustard, and they give me a load of eggs. So I think I've got the better deal here, don't you? It's absolutely loads here. There must be about 25. So thank you very much, chickies. Anyway, I've been Bethan. This has been a lovely job. Take care, everybody, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next one.